Welcome back, basketball fans, to another massive episode. Today, we are unpacking a series of shockwaves that are actively reshaping the very foundation of Philippine basketball. If you've been following the national squad, the overseas leagues, and the local circuit, you know that the landscape is shifting at an unprecedented pace. But nothing could have prepared us for the massive headlines dominating the sports world today. We have a monumental convergence of storylines that could dictate the future of Gilas Pilipinas and the Philippine Basketball Association for the next decade. The breaking news we are dissecting today centers around four of the most critical names in our current basketball diaspora. First, Jordan Heading is officially on the radar for a massive Gilas Pilipinas return, a move that could single-handedly solve the perimeter shooting woes that have plagued the national team in recent international windows. But that is only the tip of the iceberg. The far more explosive development, the rumor that is setting message boards, social media, and sports radio absolutely on fire, is that our overseas cornerstones, Sotto, Dwight Ramos, and Kevin Kiambao, are currently the subjects of massive clamor and potentially mutual interest to finally play in the PBA. Let that sink in for a moment. For the last few years, the narrative has been a one-way street. Our best and brightest leaving the local shores to test their mettle in the Japanese B-League, the Korean Basketball League, and beyond. We watched as the PBA faced an exodus of talent. But now, the pendulum might be swinging back. Why? What has changed? Is this a strategic move for their international careers, a financial pivot, or a development necessity mandated by the current state of Gilas Pilipinas? To understand the magnitude of this news, we have to look at the current state of our national team. We just witnessed a grueling second window of the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers. We saw a Gilas Pilipinas squad, under the masterful but demanding system of Coach Tim Cone, go completely winless in a brutal stretch, taking a narrow loss against New Zealand and suffering a heavy 27-point beatdown at the hands of Australia right at the Mall of Asia Arena. In the aftermath of those defeats, Coach Tim Cone explicitly stated that he needs to send the team back to the drawing board. He pointed out that despite having shooters on the roster, the team shot a dismal 29% from the three-point line against the Boomers. The offense stagnated. The chemistry looked disrupted, and the minutes for our overseas players fluctuated wildly. This is where the storm brews. Fans and analysts alike are connecting the dots. Our players like Kevin Kiambao, who's been tearing it up with the Goyang Sono Skygunners in the KBL, and Sotto, who's been a revelation in Japan, struggling to integrate into the Gilas system because of the limited preparation time and the massive stylistic differences between their overseas clubs and the national team. There's a growing, deafening sentiment among basketball purists that having our core national players competing in the PBA would allow for a cohesive, year-round Gilas program. It would mean our stars are playing under the same physical conditions, the same officiating style, and most importantly, they would be readily available for Coach Tim Cone's rigorous training camps without the constant tug-of-war with foreign clubs. Today, we are going to strip this narrative down to its core. We are going to look at Jordan Heading's potential role in saving the Gilas backcourt. We will analyze the grueling toll of the B-League on Sotto and Dwight Ramos, and why a PBA stint might actually prolong their careers and elevate their national team impact. We will break down the curious case of Kevin Kiambao, a back-to-back UAP MVP whose undeniable talent seems trapped in a bottleneck of limited minutes on the international stage. This is not just a rumor mill update. This is a deep dive into the economics, the tactics, and the profound national pride woven into Philippine basketball. Grab a seat and settle in, because we are about to break down exactly what it means if Jordan Heading returns to Gilas, and if Kai, Dwight, and KQ finally bring their talents back to the PBA. Let us begin by addressing the immediate tactical upgrade, Jordan Heading's trajectory toward Gilas Pilipinas. To understand Heading's value, you have to look at the tape from the recent FIBA window. Against Australia, the Gilas offense hit a brick wall. Coach Tim Cone operates a system that relies heavily on spacing, high basketball IQ, and the ability to knock down open looks when the defense collapses on a post or when Justin Brownlee initiates the offense. Against the Boomers, our perimeter players went completely cold. We were shooting blanks. Enter Jordan Heading. Here is a player who has proven his absolute lethal efficiency from beyond the arc. He is a natural spacer. Unlike some of our hybrid guards who are slashers first and shooters second, Heading possesses a pure unadulterated sniper's mentality. His release is quick, his off-ball movement is textbook, and he has international experience playing in Taiwan and Japan. If Heading is called up to Gilas, it changes the entire geometry of court for Tim Cone. It forces opposing defenses to stretch themselves thin, opening up the driving lanes for players like Scotty Thompson and C.J. Perez, and giving big men like Junmar Fajardo and A.J. Edu the breathing room they desperately need in the paint. Heading is not just an addition. He is a tactical necessity to cure the offensive stagnation we just witnessed. But while Heading's addition solves an immediate on-court problem, the bigger, more complex issue is the situation surrounding Sotto, Dwight Ramos, and Kevin Kiambao. Let us dissect the concept of these three titans coming to the PBA, starting with the 7'3" prodigy, Sotto. Kai has been the golden child of Philippine basketball for years. We have tracked his journey from the 8 Neo Blue Eaglets to the G League Ignite, to Australia's NBL, and now to the Japanese B-League. He has matured. He has put on muscle. He has developed a reliable hook shot and a decent mid-range jumper. However, the B-League is a grueling, hyper-fast, high-intensity competition. The schedule is relentless. For a player of Kai's immense size, the wear and tear on his lower body is a constant concern. Moreover, whenever FIBA windows approach, there is always this anxiety about whether his Japanese club will release him in time to learn the Gilas playbook. If Sotto were to play in the PBA, the entire dynamic of the league changes overnight. From a commercial standpoint, the PBA would see a renaissance in attendance and viewership. But from a developmental standpoint for Gilas, it makes infinite sense. Playing in the PBA would allow Kai to be monitored closely by the national team's medical and coaching staff. He could participate in weekly Gilas practices. He could build an unbreakable pick-and-roll chemistry with the local point guards. The PBA environment, which is highly physical, would further toughen him up for the bruising battles in the FIBA Asian circuit against teams like Iran, Lebanon, and Australia. Then we have Dwight Ramos. Dwight is the ultimate Gilas Swiss Army knife. He is the player who rarely has a bad game for the national team. He rebounds, he defends the opposing team's best wing. He can run the point, and he hits clutch shots. But Dwight has spent his entire professional career overseas. The clamor for Dwight to play in the PBA is rooted in the desire to see a generational Filipino-American talent establish a legacy on home soil. More importantly, similar to Kai, having Dwight in the PBA ensures that the core of Gilas is a unified, cohesive unit. When you have players scattered across different leagues in Asia, they are absorbing different basketball philosophies. When they come together for Gilas, it takes time to unlearn their club habits and sink into Coach Tim Cone's triangle-inspired defense-first philosophy. Time is a luxury Gilas never has. Dwight Ramos in the PBA would mean the anchor of our perimeter defense is always locked into the local basketball rhythm. Now, let's turn perhaps the most intriguing and debated player on this list, Kevin Kiambao. KQ is a basketball anomaly. He won back-to-back UAP MVPs with La Salle. He achieved a championship. He was putting up triple-doubles in the collegiate ranks, playing a style that reminded many of a young Nikola Jokic, a point forward who controls the pace, sees passes before they materialize, and can score from all three levels. He took his talents to the KBL with the Goyang Sono Skygunners, a massive step up in competition. However, his transition to the senior Gilas squad has been undeniably rocky. During the recent window, KQ saw very limited minutes. Fans noticed that he looked hesitant, out of rhythm, and unsure of his role. And this is exactly where the argument for the PBA becomes incredibly loud. In the UAP, the system was built around Kevin Kiambao. He had the highest usage rate. The offense flowed through his hands. In Gilas, he is asked to be a role player. He is asked to spot up, set screens, and defend. These are not his natural, dominant skills. A prominent discussion recently erupted on basketball forums and Reddit, pointing out that KQ and Carl Tamayo are having their potential wasted by sitting on the Gilas bench. The proposed solution? Have them drafted into the PBA. If Kevin Kiambao enters the PBA, he would instantly be the focal point of a franchise. He would get the repetitions, the high-pressure situations, and the heavy minutes against grown, physical men that he desperately needs to mature his game. He needs to learn how to be the main man against PBA imports, how to navigate complex defensive schemes designed solely to stop him. If he develops into a PBA superstar, his confidence and skill set will seamlessly translate to the international stage, making him an invaluable asset for Gilas rather than a situational bench player. This entire narrative of bringing the overseas stars home is not just about nostalgia. It is a highly analytical, strategic debate about how the Philippines can consistently compete on the world stage. The current model, relying on a fragmented roster that meets for 2 weeks before a major tournament, has a definitive ceiling. We saw that ceiling against Australia. To break through, to actually challenge the European and oceanic powerhouses, the chemistry needs to be telepathic. And telepathic chemistry is forged in the fires of playing in the same domestic league, facing each other every night, and practicing together every week. As we wrap up this extensive look into the future of Philippine basketball, it is clear that we are standing at a major crossroads. The news of Jordan potentially bringing his elite shooting back to Gilas is the immediate spark we need. It addresses a glaring flaw and gives Coach Tim Cone the spacing required to run his intricate offense. But the lingering conversation about Kai's Sotto, Dwight Ramos, and Kevin Kiambao coming to the PBA is the defining storyline of this era. It is a complex issue involving massive financial contracts in Japan and Korea, the personal career goals of these young athletes, and a desperate need for a unified national team program. We cannot force these players to leave lucrative international contracts, but the basketball logic behind a PBA return is undeniably sound. It would resurrect the domestic league prestige, provide our players with a physical conditioning unique to the Philippine style play, and most crucially, it would give Gilas Pilipinas the uninterrupted preparation time it needs to conquer the global stage. The losses to New Zealand and Australia were harsh reality checks. They exposed the cracks in a system that relies on last-minute integration of overseas stars. As we look ahead to the next FIBA windows, the decisions made by these four men, heading Sotto, Ramos, and Kiambao, will echo through the arenas of the PBA and the international courts of FIBA. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. The evolution of Gilas Pilipinas is a story we will continue to track with absolute precision. Keep supporting the national team, keep analyzing the game, and never lose that unparalleled Filipino passion for basketball. Until next time, stay locked in.